expect you to even mention to appreciate the present police. I'm saying this, people can read it politically. They have the force, they have the AK-47, but they decided to take the matter to court for the third tier of government, third arm of government, judiciary, to interpret the position of the law and do justice to either Sowore or police. If they have done that, we should be clapping for them.
Should we clap? They are law enforcement officers.
What if they have kept him like, other regimes, they arrest you, they don't know where you are.
We're not in a banana republic.
So that
we're
is
in
why,
a democracy.
That is why I appreciate the law enforcement agency for respecting the provision of law by not taking the laws in their hand. In the case of what happened between the Nigerian police and Sowore, they decided to approach the court of competent jurisdiction to say, should we keep him or not?
When Sowore, for example, said IGP Ebetokum Setenio is illegal, is unconstitutional, you are one of those who amended the law, the Police Act, to that effect. And there was an executive bill from the president, the subsection 8 of that section. What is the position of the House of the Parliament in that respect?
Well, it's laughable, first and foremost, for Sowore to say that the appointment of the IG is illegal and the IG is acting illegally. It's laughable. It's not, that statement to me was not meted on the Nigerian police force. It was meted on the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Why did you say so?
Because, one, let me talk about my qualification to be here. At the risk of allowing people to misrepresent me as a mouthpiece of the Nigerian police, no. It wasn't an executive bill to correct that impression. 2020 Police Act that was signed by President Buhari on the 16th of September 2020 was a bill single-handedly sponsored by me in the House of Representatives in the 9th Assembly.
So you were behind it?
I was the single-handedly. It has no co-sponsor. It was a member-sponsored bill as a result of Femi Bajabiamila's commitment to ensure security reforms. And I took up the bill, I took up the matter, I sponsored it on the floor of the House. It was concurred by the Senate and signed by former President Buhari on the 16th of September 2020. Was IGP Kayode Omutokuna, I don't even know his other surname, was he the Inspector General of Police when this bill was sponsored in 2020, 2019 to 2020?
He was a DCP at that time, or a
signed a DCP and CP. Then why are you personalizing it to the present IG? The reason for insertion, before I come to Sowore's whatsoever, I don't find his statement as a human being making such statement. This bill was signed into law by the former president, not President Aswaju, for people to bring ethnical sentiment to it that it was aimed at elongating or extending the tenure of the present Inspector General of Police. It was signed during Mohammed Adamu as an Inspector General of Police from the north, from Nasarawa State. What was the rationale behind myself and members of the 9th Assembly in ensuring that tenure is being provided for in the Police Act of 2020 that was signed by President Buhari? First, we noticed the provision of the Police Act. It was an old version. It was a Police Act of 1947, before the independent Nigeria, where it was put together, fashioned, and made a Police Act of 2019. Then we said, no, we cannot be saying we want internal security, we want police reform, and yet our Police Act is a Police Act of pre-colonial Nigeria. And now the clamor for state police was there too. I said, let us be very fast in saving the Nigerian people. Let us reduce the number of time if you are arrested from prosecution from 48 hours to 24 hours to ensure people's freedom. That is what, with utmost respect, that man is benefiting today. He's been granted bail because the provision of the Police Act is adjusted. 1. 2, let us remove a bottleneck for women police not to attend to the position of becoming Inspector General of Police. We amended, I totally moved for a complete repeal and reenactment of the former Police Act prior to 2020 that was signed by President Buhari to remove bottlenecks for women not to become Commissioner of Police, not to becoming Assistant Inspector General of Police, not to becoming Deputy Inspector General of Police, not to becoming Inspector General of Police.
So before now,
a
woman cannot become
based
a
on
CP,
based on the provision of the former Police Act.
And a woman cannot be IG.
Of course.
Or DIG or AIG.
The thing is that I blame the police. Because if we have achieved that far, and I was single-handedly the sponsor of that bill that was signed into law, the education about the present Police Act of September 2020 should have been escalated by the Nigerian police to know that a lot of clauses have already been completely repealed and reenacted. I think Sowore is ignorant of the adjustment in the Police Act. It was in 2020, September 16, that it was signed by President Buhari.
How come that between 2020, just a moment, between 2020 and 2023, there were 2 IGPs?
There were who were beneficiaries of the adjustment in the
But they didn't benefit from it.
They didn't, they benefited. You are talking about one section. You are talking about one section. If you are an IGP from 2020 till this time, let me tell you why it was adjusted. It is because of the frequent changes in the appointment of the Inspector General of Police. That is why the National Assembly find wisdom in making sure that it is tenured. From 1999 till then, we have over 22 indigenous Inspector General of Police. It means that they are changed almost every year. Then we said, no, if you want police reform, you cannot be a president for 8 years, be a governor for 4 or 8 years, subject to your re-election by your own people, and now you have an Inspector General of Police that you have 22 from 1999 till then. Therefore, let us make a provision that it may please the president to consider appointing Inspector General for the period of 4 years to ensure stability. 1, 2, to equally ensure that if you want police reform, you cannot appoint someone within 12 months you remove him. Another person come with his vision. Within 12 months you remove him. Another one come. Within 6 months he is retired. You cannot do police reform in that circumstance. And as a result of that, we said no. Let's provide a tenure for. It is within the wisdom of the former president, perhaps. That is why my own and our own in the National Assembly is to make law for the good of this country. We have done that. If the 2 previous Inspector General of Police did not benefit from that, I think it is within the powers of the executive to ensure that that section is properly interpreted and implemented. I give kudos to President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu for whosoever that want to misrepresent his action. So ensuring that...
Honorable, the question is that if in the last 4 years, right?
Yes.
The law was amended 4 years ago.
Yes.
5 years ago, actually, 2020. Yes. And within that period, there have been more than 2 Inspector General of Police. Yeah.
Yes.
But after that law was amended,
yes,
those Inspector General of Police were not beneficial.
I have an institution that was signed in 2020. Conversion of Federal University of Education from a status of Federal College of Education to a status of Federal University. A bill also single-handedly sponsored by me that the process of implementation took Federal Ministry of Education up to last year, September, October, before they moved to change the nomenclature of that.
So it was Buhari that did not implement.
That is it. But
the law says that an IG position should be tenured.
Part 3, Section 7, subsection 6 of 2020 Police Act empowered the president to appoint Inspector General of Police for the period of 4 years. It wasn't implemented. It's been implemented now. Where was Sowore when the bill was signed by President Buhari in 2020 during the so-called NSAS? Why have he not gone to media? Why have he not criticized the provision of that particular clause, part 3, section 7, subsection 6? Have he been deaf and dumb? I expect him as a learned person in Nigeria to have known that the Police Act was signed in 2020, 16 September, then criticize the provision of the Police Act then. If you have problem with the president, I don't have problem with him. I have met him 6 times only in the course of discharging my duty. I cannot even pronounce Kayode's surname. But let the truth be told. We cannot suffer, go through the 4 angles of teething trouble, push for a police reform that over 89 sections of the Police Act were totally repealed and reenacted. Then somebody will come just today, perhaps because of political conspiracy, economic conspiracy, you will come within the comfort of your fingertip and begin to tweet that the appointment of somebody that the bill have passed through serious legislative scrutiny by both the Senate and the House of Representatives concord taken to the president, minuted to the chief law officer, the attorney general of the federation, and it was agreed to be signed into law. Then somebody will just ridicule within the comfort of the angle of his room and begin to insult.
So it's interesting and suspicious, actually, and perhaps the reason why Omoyele Sowore is having a problem with the arrangement when you had Muhammad Adamu. It was during the tenure Muhammad Adamu was in office when the police
was during his time.
Then you had Usman Akali Baba,
yes,
who came into office.
Yes.
Actually, because of the amendment of the law, Muhammad Adamu should have left office in 2003,
yes,
2023, yes, because he was in office in 2019.
Yes.
He did not benefit.
Yes.
Came Usman Akali Baba in 2021. He left in 2023, spending 2 years. There is a law saying appointment of the IG should be for 4 years. Now you have Kayode Egbetokun coming into office. The fact that Kayode Egbetokun had worked with Bola Tinubu when he was governor in Lagos, is that not suspicious enough?
It is not. Rather, the position of Sowore is suspicious. It's what is suspicious. My brother, because I have worked with Asiwaju when he was a governor of state, and I still serve diligently in the Nigerian police, it doesn't mean if I am qualified to benefit from the position of the law, I should not benefit. If you go by that sentiment, nobody will work with Asiwaju. If you go by that sentiment, nobody would have worked with President Muhammadu Buhari. If you go by that sentiment, nobody would have worked with Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Certainly, when Goodluck was deputy governor, certainly when he became governor, certainly when Yar'Adua was a governor, when he became president, he must have had people he trusts that he can assign them some certain responsibility, having become the president. It is not a taboo, because the present IG, at the risk of being the police public relation officer in this program, I don't care how you misrepresent my defense of a bill, of a law that passed through me, through House of Reps, through Senate, signed into law, and somebody is abusing it. I can go to any level constitutionally to stand against that. Rather, what is suspicious is his position. Why wouldn't you ask him, where was he when this bill was signed into law on the 16th of September 2020? Why didn't he tweet? Was he not educated enough to know how to use Twitter or Instagram or WhatsApp group or press conference or Sahara Reporters? He should have been quite learned. I believe in 2020, his Twitter handle was active. What stopped him from scrutinizing that law that was signed into law on the 16th of September? It is now that you want to bring that. Secondly, about implementation of government policies, we must educate ourselves to understand. A judgment was passed by the Supreme Court of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Are we together, Shane?
I'm listening.
About the autonomy of local government. Till the time the judgment was delivered up to here, have it been implemented? No. Why? It's a process. A bill is signed today. You want the bill to take into effect tomorrow. Take it or leave it. Former Inspector General Adamu and the immediate past IG would have been a victim of slow-ginness of the executive arm of government in implementing legislative framework that are pushed to them and signed into law by them by the National Assembly. That I agree. There could have been politics, which I'm not in a better position to explain, as to the reason why the former president did not give the former Inspector General Adamu, whose time was that bill signed into law. Remember too, Adamu was removed when the president was out of Nigeria, when someone was acting as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So, to me, I don't understand the politics that is going on, but I know when you pass a legislation, it takes a bureaucratic process for it to be put together and for implementation to commence. So if they have not commenced implementation, it will not be that it is as a result of sentiment that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came in and discovered there is a gap, and discovered there is an act, and discovered the process of implementing that act have been put together, and discovered there is community policing, that before 2020, it wasn't a recognition of any legal framework, but the 2020 Police Act recognizes the implementation of community policing. All those things is a process now they have started. So why should someone not question Sowore? Is that how to pronounce it?
Sowore.
Sowore, whatever. because I've never taken interest to pronounce his name. Now, could you not have called him, or people should have questioned his reason for criticizing a law that have put in place, signed by executive?
So when you were pushing,
Honorable, it is now that he is talking.
When you were pushing for this law, and I'm going to come to how maybe the likes of Sowore were suspicious about the appointment of Mr. Egbetokun. When you were pushing for this law, did you put in consideration the issue of seniority before the appointment? Or
of course.
Did you put the discretion for the president
in
appointment?
Of course.
What position did you take?
You cannot appoint a junior officer to be the Inspector General of Police ahead of the existing. The appointment itself comes as a seniority. But in an event, like in the case of the present IG, you are appointed in the first instance. That tells you that it takes a process for government to study a law and implement the law. His first appointment was not based on the provision of 4 years tenure. It was based on the provision of the fact that he was appointed, whatsoever the reason it, he become the senior in the Nigerian police force, other senior officers are retired, then it gives him the enablement to function as an Inspector General of Police. One. Secondly, having studied the law, that yes, if you allow this process of appointing people within 6 months, 1 year they retire, another person come with a different vision, you remove him. His tenure finish either by his number of years in service or the 6 months or whatever his age limit in service, and you equally remove him. It brings a political catastrophe to the police.
Did you think, and the position you made earlier as to the reasoning behind the appointment of Kayode Egbetokun, the question is that were there no people who were more senior than him for the president to jump over their heads for the appointment of Kayode Egbetokun?
But let me ask you, has there ever been a time that any president in Nigeria, both in the appointment of Inspector General of Police and the appointment of services chief in the Nigerian military, that a junior ranking officer is not appointed to enable the raising and stability in all the services? Call me any president that have not done that in the history of Nigeria, from Olusegun Obasanjo.
Does that make it right?
It makes it right, because I am a chairman of an armed forces. I know the bureaucracy of the armed forces. This is what the bill seeks to cure by providing for a tenure.
Now you truncate the years of service and bring to an end. Just a moment, you bring to an end the time of some officers, truncate it so that you can.
It's not truncating.
To promote one.
It's not truncating the year of service. This have not anybody is the IGP appointed out of the service. Does Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu go out of the police force to pick a retired police officer to come and appoint him? If Kayode is a beneficiary of this law today, tomorrow another ASP or DSP will equally be a beneficiary of this law. You ask question about appointing junior, retiring senior. For instance, you have a chief of defense staff that perhaps he is in the course 35 or 39 or 40. Then the other services will not be in course 40. They will be in course 39 to allow the chief of defense staff be a 4-star general and the other one 3-star general. So in an event that you want to appoint and you feel I'm here and you feel the service chief, including the police inspector general of police, are in course 39, you want to appoint the next one. Would you want to pick again in that course 39? They are forces, both the police and the armed forces are advocate of discipline. You cannot appoint an IG, he retired, and appoint another IG from that course to retire. When he retired, by the tradition of the police and military, it means all the course, the senior officers under the course of that cadre are retiring with the IG that retired. So it doesn't mean that they are picking someone.
Did you also reason that in the time that Kayode Egbetokun will be in office, there are a lot of people who maybe would have been due for to be an IG or AIG or DIG, but because of the extension or the tenure of
it's
the
not
IG,
extension, because of the implementation of that provision of section.
Don't you think that will also affect them? And by the time that Kayode Egbetokun would have spent 4 years, wouldn't he be older than the expected year of service?
It is better in military, it is better in police force for him to be older than not to be older. Let me tell you something. Have we ever had 5 inspector general of police at the same time? No. Assuming he is going, his cosmates are going with him. 5 inspector general of police at the same time. No. Assuming he is going, his cosmates are going with him. 5 inspector general of police at the same time. No. Assuming he is going, If you don't appoint him based on the provision of the existing Police Act, which is an insult to the law, for not appointing that, for not implementing the provision of that law, would you now say that all AIG, DIG are going to automatically become Inspector General of Police? You have one at a time. And take it or leave it. As this provision is not comfortable to others, it favors others. By the way, laws are not met based on personal sentiment and benefit of the beneficiaries of those laws. Laws are made to benefit the system. If the rationale behind ensuring that there is a provision of 4-year tenure for Inspector General of Police is to ensure that you give time to the leader of the police to come up with police reform, and he failed to do that, then hold him accountable.
So, but not you're saying that you were the one who sponsored that bill.
Yes.
It was passed in 2020.
Yes.
Buhari did not implement it by appointing people for the 4-year tenure.
Yes.
Tinubu came into office, and Egbetokun benefited from it, and it's not Egbetokun's fault.
Yes, it's not.
That's your position.
It's not Tinubu's fault either. Because it's not President Tinubu that signed that bill into law. It is President Muhammadu Buhari that signed it, but did not implement. For whatever bureaucratic bottleneck that make it impossible for him to implement.
So all the claims that Sowore is making,
he would have done it during the
IGP is an illegal.
He personalized the thing. It is obvious that he had problem with either the Nigerian police, he had problem with either the ruling party, which is clearly exhibited based on his antecedent. He had personal problem with the police, and he want to personalize it. Otherwise, ask him this question: where was he when the bill was subjected to public hearing? As a civic right activist, why wouldn't he appear in the National Assembly? General public were invited. I have the newspaper by Honorable Kumo, who was the then, now Chief Whip, who was then the chairman of the police committee in the House of Representatives, and distinguished Senator Haliru Jika. The public hearing was called. It published in newspaper. This man was nowhere to be found. His Twitter was nowhere to be found. He didn't come to say and object that provision. Whereas National Assembly have made it open for every civic society organization to come and make presentation. He didn't. It didn't stop there. When President Muhammadu Buhari signed, the man disappeared as a civic rights activist. He didn't say anything. He didn't. Just now, after 5 years, he manifested with Twitter handle, and he's talking. He's insulting not the police, but the National Assembly as an institution. And some of us would be less people to allow any individual. We don't have the power to arrest him or say anything. But you cannot undermine.
Is it enough to drag him to court over his expression of his views about it?
Is that the expression of the view? You think now, Shehu, if I appear in any radio house or pick my Twitter handle and say, you are not the begotten, you are not the son of your father, you are illegally born, do you think you will not take me to court?
So it's justified what
it's
the police
justified for police to take him to court.
All right.
Where your rights end. That's where the beginnings of another person's life.
Let's take a break.
Let us have decorum in using our fingertip on our telephones and computers.
Let's take a break, Honorable.